Hey, welcome. Get ready because over the next few minutes, we're going to take a wild ride, all the way from the chemical explosions inside a tiny beetle to the future of human medicine. It's all about cracking the fundamental code of life, so let's get into it. So, check this out. It sounds like something straight out of a comic book, but I promise you, it's 100% real. Meet the bombardier beetle. When this little guy feels threatened, it does something, well, something pretty incredible. So how on earth does it do it? Well, it's not magic. It's just biology, pushed to its absolute limit. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the beetle's secret weapon. It has this special mixing chamber inside its body where it combines two chemicals, hydrogen peroxide and hydroquinone. But the real magic, it's all about these things called enzymes. Think of them as tiny biological superchargers. They make this chemical reaction happen literally millions of times faster than it normally would. The result? A boiling hot, nasty-smelling spray that blasts out in a split second and stops any predator right in its tracks. It's an amazing feat of chemistry, and honestly, it's the perfect way to kick off our first big question.
Right. So if you want to understand how life actually works, you have to start with the instruction manual. So what is the secret blueprint that builds everything from that beetle to you and me?
It all starts right here, deep inside the nucleus of almost every cell. You've got chromosomes, and they're made of DNA. Now, the easiest way to think about DNA is like it's the ultimate instruction manual for a living thing. And if the DNA is the whole book, then the genes, well, the genes are the individual recipes inside that book. They're the specific instructions for building all the important stuff, like proteins, which do pretty much all the heavy lifting in our cells.
Okay, so you've got the blueprint. That's great. But a blueprint doesn't build a house, right? You need a construction crew. Life is the same way. It needs workers to actually read those instructions in the DNA and get things done.
And here they are. Meet the workers, enzymes. These guys are the microscopic construction crew for the entire body. And remember our bombardier beetle, the superchargers that made its explosion possible? Yep, those were enzymes. They're these special proteins that speed up chemical reactions at insane speeds. I mean, they do everything, from digesting the food you eat to building brand new cells. They are the workhorses that make the genetic blueprint a reality.
But what does an enzyme actually doing its job look like? I mean, they're invisible, right? Well, this experiment is just a brilliant way to see it. What you're looking at is a petri dish full of starch. That's the dark stuff. Then they put a starch-digesting enzyme into those little wells. See those clear rings growing around them? That's the enzyme, just munching away, breaking down the starch. And the longer you let it go, the bigger that clear halo gets. It's the perfect way to see these invisible workers in action.
All right, so we've been looking at the chemistry happening inside a single cell. But let's zoom out, way out. How does this tiny molecular world scale up to create the incredible diversity of life we see all over the planet? How does that code of life change over millions and millions of years to give us, well, everything? You know, the engine that drives all of evolution is simple: variation. Just look at these snails. They're not all the same, are they? Different colors, different patterns. All this diversity comes from things like genes getting shuffled around and tiny little changes, mutations in the DNA. This variation is the raw material. It's what natural selection has to work with. If everyone was exactly the same, evolution would grind to a halt. It's as simple as that. And check out this powerful, real-world example of natural selection in action, in us. So, there's a gene that can cause sickle cell anemia. It makes red blood cells get misshapen, which can cause all sorts of health problems. But here's the twist. If you have just one copy of that gene, you're also highly resistant to malaria, which is a really deadly disease. So what happens? In places where malaria is a huge threat, this gene that seems bad actually gives people a massive survival advantage. It's a deadly trade-off, and it's evolution happening right before our eyes.
And evolution isn't a solo act. It often involves an intricate dance between species. Take a look at this. It's a fly orchid. It is a master of deception. It has evolved to look and even smell exactly like a female insect. Why? To trick the males. They fly in, try to mate with what they think is a female, and in the process, they end up pollinating the flower. It's a stunning example of what we call co-evolution, where two different species are shaping each other's evolutionary journey.
So, we've talked about how life writes its own code through evolution over eons. But in just the last few decades, something absolutely game-changing has happened. We humans, we've learned how to read that code. And now, we're starting to learn how to rewrite it ourselves. And one of the keys to this new power? Stem cells. You can think of these as the body's master cells, or biological blank slates. They're undecided. They haven't specialized yet, which means they hold this incredible potential to turn into almost any type of cell the body needs, whether it's a neuron in your brain or a muscle cell in your heart.
So why is this such a big deal? The promise is huge, especially for medicine. Just imagine if we could grow new, healthy tissue to replace tissue that's been damaged by a disease like Parkinson's or by an injury. That's the whole idea behind stem cell therapy. It offers real hope for treating some of the toughest medical challenges out there.
But this ability to rewrite the code of life isn't just about medicine. It's also about our food. This little guy is a corn borer. It's a pest that absolutely devastates crops and threatens food supplies all over the world. So one potential solution is genetic modification. Scientists can actually go in and give a corn plant a new instruction, a new gene that allows it to produce its own natural insecticide. The plant can then protect itself from pests like this.
But having this kind of power naturally brings up some really big questions. I mean, we're talking about changing the fundamental code of the food we eat. That's a huge step, and it's absolutely crucial that we stop and think about the potential downsides. So what are some of those risks? Well, here are a few of the big environmental concerns. For one, what if the new gene from a modified plant gets out into the wild, maybe through pollen, and creates a kind of invasive superweed that we can't control? Another concern is that if you create a crop that's resistant to a specific herbicide, farmers might just use that one herbicide all the time. And what does that do? It just puts immense pressure on weeds to evolve their own resistance. Look, these are really complex problems, and there are definitely no simple answers.
So let's just take a breath. In just the last few minutes, we've covered a ton of ground. We went from DNA, life's basic blueprint, to the enzymes that actually build everything, all the way through the grand sweep of evolution and landed right here, with our own new power to rewrite that very code.
And that brings us to our final thought, which is maybe the most important one of all. We've learned to both read and write the code of life. That's an absolutely incredible power, and with it comes a massive responsibility. The story of life on this planet is no longer just being written by nature. We now have a hand in writing the next chapter. So the big question for all of us is, what story will we choose to tell?